Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today I want to tell you everything I don't like about my John Deere 2038R tractor. Now, I've got two previous reviews on this that are completely positive because overall, I love the tractor. I've got 500 hours on it in 18 months using a wide range of attachments, and it's done almost everything I've wanted it to do. But that doesn't mean it's a perfect machine. So today let's jump into some things that I think they could have done better, or things that I've had to upgrade and I think should have been stock on the tractor. The first thing that I'll point out as being a negative is the John Deere front end quick attach system. For a while now, I've heard people say that they don't like this quick attach system, or that they bought an adapter so that they can use the skid steer quick hitch. And I kind of defended this system by saying that it's just as good and you can get about anything you want with the John Deere system. And both of those things are true. The John Deere system is very easy. You just go under it, lift and curl, drop two pins in and flip them down. I don't think it's better or worse than the skid steer system. What it comes down to is sometimes you can easily find cheap used skid steer attachments that may not be as easy to find with the John Deere system. It hasn't been a big deal for me, but as I look at getting a skid steer and I look at people who have mini skid steers, I see how it would be nice to have those parts be compatible, and there's just really no reason for John Deere to have their own system. The next thing I want to talk about is the rear remotes. Me personally, I wouldn't have a tractor that didn't have rear remote hydraulic ports. And I got them put on this. It's not standard, but it's something you can easily add. And that's all I ask for with any of these complaints, is not that the way I want it should be standard, but you should at least have an option. So I got the rear remotes put on here, and you have two levers to the right hand side of the joystick. Now, ergonomics on this tractor are the number one thing that I would say it shines at. And those two handles for the rear remotes are in a great position. My issue with them is the way they operate. They're large levers that don't move very fluidly. So when you push them forward or pull them, it moves in jerks. And it depends on what you're doing. That might be fine if that's your, say, tilt for something in the back. You have like a hydraulic angling grater blade or something, and you just need to move that lever. You're not fine-tuning that. But when I use it with my stump grinder, that grinder head is spinning, and you want to put a smooth, consistent pressure across that to remove material, and your lever's like, it's just not very fluid to operate. Not the biggest deal, but I'd like it if those levers were a little bit easier to control. I primarily use those two levers for my top and tilt kit now. And if you haven't already seen it, check out the top and tilt video. I'll put that at the end, but that system is phenomenal. For everything I've used so far has been benefited by having the ability to hydraulically tilt. Let's stick with hydraulics for the next complaint, and that's the lack of a true third function, which leaves everyone to come up with aftermarket third function solutions. I started off running hoses from my rear remote up to the front, and then I had hard lines put on to use those rear remotes at the front. Then I found the solution that I'm using now, which is an Artillian diverter. That Artillian diverter works great, but it's not a true third function that should have been available from the factory. Now, after 5 years since the last redesign on this tractor, if you can go to your dealership and order a true third function, but if you find one of these sitting on the lot, it probably won't have it, and it'll be an expensive upgrade. The next complaint is the seat safety switch. And I understand that legally they probably can't even sell a tractor without that safety switch on the seat. But it is so easy to trigger when you're trying to lean and see your load, or you're leaning back and twisting and trying to see behind you, and you lean just far enough to come off of that safety switch, kill the tractor in the middle of an action that you... Sometimes it's a bad time to kill the tractor, and it happens. And that compounds with the next thing on the list, which is a lack of visibility. Now, I'm gonna make some excuses for the tractor and the lack of visibility, because you're trying to put as much horsepower as you can into as small a frame as you can. And I've been on a 1025 and it has better visibility. I've been on a 3046 and it has better visibility. And towards the end of this video, I'm going to compare, would I still buy this compared to other models that I've been on or looked at. But just for this part, this has some of the worst visibility that I've been around. When you couple that poor visibility with the safety switch on the seat, every time you try to pick something up with the forks, you're leaning out to see it and you kill the tractor. Sticking here with the front of the tractor, next complaint is the brush guard. It does not guard you from brush. There's a void in it, a foot tall. You only handle brush that's a foot diameter? I'm not sure on that. I suppose it's better than not having a brush guard at all, but it needs modified. I have a video showing how a friend of mine fabricated a mesh support to go in between the existing brush guard. Works great, should be a factory option, because the grill behind that brush guard is really not very substantial at all. You can take just a small stick and jab right through that into your radiator. So I would have liked to had a more substantial brush guard. I'll link to the brush guard video in the description with all these other upgrades. Next on the list is the front axle. Apparently the front axle drive shaft on some tractors don't even have a grease zerk, which seems crazy to me. This one has the ability to grease it, but it's very hard to access. You either need a special tip on your grease gun or you have to remove parts to get in there and grease that. The next thing is the lack of a toolbox. On the left side of the operator's station, there's a little tiny glove box that you can put almost nothing in. And I have some really nice Artillian toolboxes that mount on the back of the tractor, but it would have been nice if there was something even the size of an ammo can pre-mounted on the tractor. The next couple of negative things have to do with the three-point hitch. And I have fixed all of these already, but there are a lot of tractors in the John Deere lineup that come standard the way they should be, or the way I think they should be, and a lot of other manufacturers that do, and I'm not sure why this most recent redesign from John Deere didn't incorporate those into this tractor. And I guess the answer is you have to cut costs somewhere, but these seem like low-cost upgrades that could have been optional. So this is a telescoping stabilizer. I pull a pin and I can slide it back and forth. Very convenient. I had to wait 9 months to special order these from the one guy who makes them. I've actually thought about just making them for this model and having a stack of them here for anyone who wants them. The next thing back here is the extendable draft links. I have separate videos on replacing the turnbuckles and also on replacing your draft arms that actually lift your 3-point, and those have been replaced with extendable draft arms. So if you're not perfectly hooked up, you can push down on a lever, extend that arm out, and make it much easier to hook up a 3-point attachment. These 2 points aren't as critical if you use a quick hitch like I have on there now, and I primarily use a quick hitch, but I have a couple things that can't use a quick hitch, and it would be really nice to have the option to pay a couple $100 extra to have extendable draft arms and telescoping stabilizers. In that category of things that should be better on the 3-point, I have no idea why you can't buy a hydraulic top link with your tractor or a hydraulic side link with your tractor. Now, you might be able to go to your dealership and say you want those, but that's a service your dealership is providing to buy a cylinder and put it on there for you. These are phenomenal upgrades that my 3-point hitch, the way it's set up now, is dramatically easier to use than it was from the factory. Let me know in the comments, did your tractor come with some of these upgrades, or did you have to do them yourself, or do you think they don't matter? The next thing I want to talk about is the mechanical self-leveling loader. And it falls in as my #1 favorite thing about the tractor, and also it falls onto my things I hate about the tractor. Overall, 1000% I would recommend this loader. If you're not familiar with this self-leveling loader, it uses a mechanical system with an extra bar and these triangular shaped 3-point adapters to automatically maintain whatever level you have the loader at. So if you're tilted like this and you move up and down, it stays tilted like that until you hit the curl or dump function. So you still have full control of how level your load is while you're moving it, but the up and down control only maintains that level. That is a priceless feature to me. A real benefit is that through that system of self-leveling, it accidentally gains an extra 300 or 400 pounds of lift capacity, which is a huge deal for me. But there are two negatives to that. Number one is you lose some curl back. And that's going to be frustrating to a lot of people who've never been on this and jump on it and try to move some dirt, that you don't have as much curl back as you feel like you should. To me, it's not that big a deal, but I know for some people it will be. The way I've compensated for that lack of curl back is taking advantage of the fact you have a higher lift capacity. I put a larger bucket on it. So now with a larger bucket, even though I don't have full curl back, I believe I can still carry more material than you could with the standard loader and the standard bucket. But really the reason I brought up the MSL is I think that there's room for improvement with the way they bolted these plates together. And I had some issues with the bolts coming loose and breaking on that, and I have a video just about that issue with the MSL. But most tractors in this size range don't have an option for this loader. I applaud John Deere for giving it to us, but there are a couple things that could be better. And one more note on that curl back, I feel like I have a simple solution that they could have implemented. So if you look right here, with this system, when you curl back, you just don't go back quite as far. Couldn't they have added a spacer right in here that holds this out further? You would have to pin that spacer on with these linch pins right here and then pin your attachment to it. But you don't have to make this entire mechanism curl back further. You just need the bottom of your attachment to be out further. Seems like they could have accomplished that in several different ways. The next two things I want to point out are the biggest, or maybe the most critical of anything I've mentioned. One of those is the hydrostatic transmission having a limited ability to push into a pile. It feels a little bit frustrating when you're wanting to push into a big dirt pile and it just doesn't have the power to do it. But I believe that any hydrostat transmission is going to run into some of that problem, and the only solution I think there is a gear drive, like a shuttle shift. And you know, I've looked at tractors in this horsepower range that have the hydrostat and the shuttle shift on the same model. And if I was buying one, I would get the hydrostat. So really, I can't complain about that because I'm choosing it. The last thing that might bother a lot of people is the fact it's a 2-range transmission, where the 3R series is a 3-range transmission. The most popular tractors, like from Kubota, have a 3-range transmission. For a long time, I said I didn't care about that. I couldn't see myself ever wanting to come out of low gear. I use low gear for everything because I'm not traveling that much distance. But lately, I've been taking clay from this pile down here at the pond up to the Quonset hut. And that's a long enough drive that I'd like to have that mid-range, because you don't pull that well in high range, so you have to switch back and forth. But if you had a mid-range, you might be able to get a scoop of dirt and take it up there better. Now that I've listed off everything I can think of that's negative about this tractor, would I buy it again? Yeah, I love this tractor. I would be tempted, if I was doing this again, to buy a larger tractor. But that has pros and cons, and it depends on your uses. You know, I'm using it as a forklift. I'm putting a lot of hours on it. If those aren't true for you, There are a lot of advantages to this tractor. It's so ergonomic. The fact that it has armrest and your joystick is on the armrest where you can, very small movements to operate it, doing a lot of loader work is very nice, as opposed to the majority of tractors in this class range have a joystick that's out here and takes a bigger movement to operate. Just things like that, and the fact that there's no other tractor on the market in this size range with 38 horsepower and 31 PTO horsepower. I run attachments that require 30 PTO horsepower, so I definitely wouldn't get anything smaller. I'd be tempted to go with like a 3046R. I definitely would not consider like a 3025E or a 3033 as an upgrade over this. I think you've got to at least go to a 3039R before you're upgrading over this in the John Deere family. Now I need to apologize to my tractor for all the negative things I said, but you know, sometimes the truth hurts. I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. You should see more of our videos right here, and I'll see you next time.